The meaning of art is a delicate bubble, existing somewhere between its creation and destruction. And all these little bubbles here are a poignant reminder of all our different cultures. Us here, them over there, floating free, apparently cut off, disconnected. Let's come back to this thought a little later. Greetings from Brisbane. The forecast is for a high of 36 degrees, clear skies, with a chance of bubbles. This is the opening of the 6th Asia Pacific Triennial. The APT is a once every 3 years exhibition of contemporary art. It's a big show with nearly 100 artists representing more than a dozen countries. And it doesn't all fit into one place. Some of it's here at the Queensland Art Gallery, and the rest is next door at QAGOMA, Brisbane's new Gallery of Modern Art. The Asia Pacific Triennial is different to most other large international exhibitions of contemporary art because it's about a region rather than a single curatorial theme. But can the APT say anything coherent about a region that covers virtually 2/3 of the globe? Or is it just a travelogue for stay-at-home art tourists? Some toast. So what does the APT offer? What sort of art do we find here? It seems as if every major city has its headline art event. So why the APT and why Brisbane?
Brisbane's proximity as the major capital city closest to the Asia Pacific region does make sense in a way for us to claim this as one of the, I suppose, primary sort of communication links into that region. Even today, there's still a perception from many people within the sector that contemporary art, and particularly contemporary Asia Pacific, isn't what a primary audience really gets excited about. The difference here is because it's been so continuous and so, I think, well presented to community, it really has built that level of informed momentum. But I think in other regions it's still seen as a bit of a curiosity. They don't have the depth of information. It's not so much on their radar. A lot of Australian cities are still very Northern Hemisphere centric.
Western audiences expect art to be intellectually entertaining, yet critical and outspoken and free. This balancing act is hard to achieve in places where everyday freedoms can come at a high cost. Subodh Gutman is a well-known artist in India. He's been called the Damien Hirst of Delhi and the Marcel Duchamp of Southeast Asia. And that's mainly because he uses ready-made objects like this piece, which uses hundreds and thousands of metal objects all welded together, pots and pans and ladles. There's a high school trophy up there, a trumpet. All of these things have been put together into this ominous mushroom cloud shape. The detail of it is just mind-bending.
Where we live in India, we neighborhood with Pakistan, what's happening in Afghanistan, in the Gulf, we all know. 4 years ago, it was very tense. They were talking like they're going to throw each other a bomb. As an artist, you react. Mushroom cloud is a form. It's a scary form. Today, we all human beings very aware about it. But material is more important for me. Also, I'm using the material what is disappearing from the real day-to-day life, and same time try to express my feeling. And what you see this mushroom cloud here is made out of utensils. When any human get first hit, the first thing is get affected is kitchen, where you look for food.
Gupta's sculpture reminds us of the realities of places like India and Pakistan, where nuclear-armed neighbours are waiting for the other to blink. Political situations and systems have inevitable impacts on the lives of artists and the works they make. Monir Sharudi Farmanfarmian is from Iran. She's 86 years old. She left Iran to train as an artist in New York in the late 1940s, but after the Iranian Revolution of 1979, it became increasingly difficult for her to return. Although she spent pretty much most of her life away from Iran, she eventually went back in 2002.
How long does it take to make a work like this?
Well, all these 6 pieces, it took about 9 months, but 6 days a week, and 5 workers, 5 craftsmen. I have a lot of patience to make that, and it came out not bad.
Yes, not bad at all.
Monir's work draws on the ancient visual language of Persian art and the geometric symbolism of Sufism.
Was it a difficult return for you to Iran?
Yes, it has changed a lot. People, they haven't changed, but the atmosphere has changed a lot, unfortunately. Now, I don't like the Islamic rule, to be honest with you. They look very low at the women. I take it because it's the only place I can do my craftsman.
Political decisions have a physical impact. The construction of China's massive Three Gorges Dam displaced over 1 million people. Entire cities were flooded. Chen Quilin's video and installation are memorials to the impact that China's economic prosperity has had on its people.
This is a very emotional piece for the artist because her own hometown, her own family home, was destroyed to make way for the rising waters.
因为做这个，我不是因为做这一件作品，是做很多年。当我最早开始做这个的时候，当时的确是带着一种什么样的情绪呢？就是甚至有的时候你还会很伤感，甚至还有愤怒。但是到后来，就是每一年在做作品的过程当中，我觉得我个人也在成长。你会学会用一种眼睛去看这个事情，或者是整个这个事情的，包括城市的变化。
I wondered if you thought that your work had a dialogue with other artists and their work from very, many different places.
我觉得就是怎么说，我们的作品中间其实不叫什么联系，但是我觉得大家都有一种关怀的情怀在里面，然后还有大家对那种记忆的那种怎么说，用自己的那种体会去做出来，就是每个人做出来自己心里真正想要的，就一定会有东西是相通的，那就是人的心，我觉得这样。
We've become pretty familiar with those touring shows of modernist masterpieces, the sort of exhibition that comes complete with a huge catalogue, commemorative coffee mugs and tea towels in the gift shop. And then there's the biennales with themes so baffling hardly anyone, least of all the artists, seem to understand what they're about. By contrast, the APT is refreshingly different.
But how does one even begin going about organising a show like this? And how do you define what is Asian, or even the Pacific anyway?
I think the exhibition title, the Asia Pacific Triennial of Contemporary Art, forces us to do that every time, and in a very good way. It gives us a very good structure. That's quite open-ended as well. So it's open to interpretation, and the definitions are fluid and can be re-entered and discussed every single time. For example, for APT 5, we included Hawaii, and there was a great conversation about saying that that's the USA, and saying, well, no, actually it's a Pacific island. It was only the USA very recently in history of time. And so, there are all of these arguments that take place, and I think they're good arguments. They make you think about what these definitions are and why. That said, I think the APT project is very much also about Australia, and Australia thinking about its location in this region and what those relationships might be, what are the exchanges that are taking place. And because Australia has always been a country of migrants as well, the first boat people came with Captain Cook and that crew, so it's part of the dynamic that is the APT.
And I guess the other issue that this exhibition touches on is the question of whether Australia is regarded as an Asian country, either by Australians or by our neighbours.
I don't think it matters. I don't think those things matter, whether we're Asian or Pacific or not. We're here, and that's a fact.
Ah, yes, my thought bubble. The idea of separate cultures depends entirely on your point of view, where you're coming from. This work by Japanese artist Koinawa is literally a bubble within the rest of the exhibition. Coming into this room is like stepping out of one reality and into another. It's like being inside science fiction. It's dramatic, weird, about as close as a sober person can come to an altered state.
ただ僕自身は、そのマイセルフっていうんですかね、自分の自己表現として、作品を作っているわけではなくて、むしろ自分の意識とか、感覚と、感覚をそのまま人と、他人の意識とか感覚とが、接続されるような表現を目指しています。なので、通常のいわゆる自己表現というやり方とは少し違ったやり方をしてるんじゃないかなと自分でも思います。作品の持っている次元というのかな、作品のある一つの持っている緊張感にまずこのスペースに入った時にそういう感覚に誘いたいんですね。こういう感覚そのものが、実は人間の、感覚の本質としてどこかみんな共通して持ってるんじゃないかなと、そういう気がするので、なんか共有できるスペースとして作っています。
Dear Diary, it's said that the APT is a survey of contemporary art. But as I walk around looking at all the different works by all the different artists, themes seem to emerge anyway. The show features a number of examples of what is one of the defining features of contemporary art practice: collaboration. One of the stars of the show is undoubtedly Yoshitomi Nara. He's famous for his images of cute, knife-wielding little girls. More recently, he's been collaborating with Osaka-based architects Graph. Together, they are YNG, and they build studios that are more like a kid's playhouse. Okay, minivan, wooden roof, lots of toys, souvenirs, little paintings. What's the deal? Why is this studio on wheels?
なんか自動車みたいなものに家が乗っかってるような、そういうちょっと高めのそういう作品ができたらいいなと思って、まあほんのポッと浮かんだアイデアだったんだけど、最初は。
っていうんで、なんかそういう旅してる感じっていうのがあって、でモバイルスタジオってアイデアがよりこう明確になってきました。
なんか自動車でそのまんまここの入り口から入ってきて、ここに
止めた
ギャラリーに止めたみたいな感じが出ればいいかなと思って、いろいろ小屋作ってくる中で中に置くものはもう自分の持ってるものを置いてたんだけど、そのうち数がなくなってきて買ったりするようにもなったんだけど、オーディエンスがみんな同じ感情を共有するっていう必要は僕はないと思ってて、それぞれのジェネレーションがそれぞれにこう反応するものっていうのが見えればいいかなと思ってます。例えばちっちゃい子供なんかが単にぬいぐるみに反応して面白がるのもいいだろうし、ヒッピージェネレーションの人が中の内装を見てなんか懐かしさ感じたり、なんか平和的なことを思ってくれたらそれでいいし、本当にみんなが自由に感じてくれたらいいなと思ってます。
What is the purpose of an artist and an architect working together?
自分の中ではチームだと思ってて、だからコラボレーションっていう言葉は使いたくなくて、でこの作品自体も僕自身の作品ではなくて YNG っていうチームの作品になっている。だからなんていうかな、僕自身の内面っていうのを自分個人で絵描く時よりは全然出してないし、それよりももっとみんなで楽しむ感じっていうのを、出してるつもりでやってる感じかな。
This is a collaborative piece by the artist duo Alfredo and Isabel Aquilizan. The idea with this work is that kids and their parents, families, whoever, even arts presenters, can sit down and, with all this material, make airplanes and balloons and spaceships, basically anything that flies. The airplane for the artist is a symbol of diaspora, of movement, of the contemporary world. And I have to tell you that my best effort so far isn't particularly aerodynamic. But happily, we have this piece that I made earlier. I really did. Do you want to give it a go? Do you want to see if you can make it fly? It sort of crashed over there.
I think the very essence of the work is to create a situation wherein you make people sit down and slow down and make something. I think at this age in time, people just sit, or kids start just sitting in front of the computer, and I think this is a very good opportunity for them to start making use of their hands
and think with their hands as well.
Yeah, and that's I think the very essence of the work. And of course, in the end, it's not the object in itself, but of course, when people sit down and make things together,
the exchange, the stories you tell while you're making and creating that work, I think that's the invisible part. But I think that's coming from where we come from. We're from the Philippines. I think it's very Asian and very Southeast Asian, that the idea of egalitarianism, and we started investigating that working together, that sense of interdependency.
They call it collaboration, but actually it's just making things together.
Yeah, working hand in hand.
And we get to learn also like women from Fiji doing the same process. And again, probably it's not just Asian, maybe it's also an island thing, wherein you make do of whatever you have. We just make this, together, and it's just there,
The Fijian women Alfredo just mentioned were Bale Gioni and Leba Toki. They spent the better part of a year working with New Zealand artist Robin Wyatt to produce this work for the APT.
It wasn't up on a wall when we did it, right?
When we started making the tapa, it was on the floor, and we sit down on it, and then we start doing our work. This is the first time I saw it in our work, really hanging on the walls, and I couldn't believe it that we made such a beautiful work. It's amazing.
Making these woven and painted bark cloth and pandanus is a conversation, and one that's as much unspoken as it is expressed.
And we learn a lot from our working together. We learn friendliness, especially myself, I learned patience, and I learned love. It's uplifted my soul. It's very important.
We were looking at a marriage of cultures, specifically looking at the situation in Fiji, where for us Fiji represents possibilities of an example of a society where these different elements can exist in a harmonious balance.
We have been trying to show the world that Fiji is still a good country to live in. And we are trying to show that we care. And so we can live together as one family and a home.
Our tapa can tell the story to the people.
For some, the dialogue is the artwork. This giant plinth, this imposing structure here, is actually hollow. And if you walk around the back, you find this inviting little cubby house. This is the work of the Melbourne art group DAMP. DAMP has been going since 1995, and they've had more than 70 artists move through its ranks. For the APT, DAMP have created this place as a venue for people to come together and meet. And I think they're having a meeting right now. I guess we should start with the first and most obvious question. Why a plinth?
It's a monument to groups meeting and talking. It's also, when we think about monuments, it's also a platform. So again, that slippage of when a monument becomes a platform is often when living people get on top of the monument and then it becomes a platform. So it's a platform for groups to stop and to meet and to talk.
But inside it's quite different. From the outside it looks like a plinth, but when you walk in, you find that it's like a clubhouse.
I guess that's the way that the group functions, you know. You make art, but then the group has a really private sort of meeting time as well that is often of much interest to people outside the group. So we wanted to make people feel at home and I guess just for a moment be a part of our group through our work.
The APT has a number of collaborative artist groups within it. Do you feel part of that grouping, that's a fair way to describe what DAMP does?
A group of people have to decide together what the best way forward is. They have to decide what they want to do and why they want to do it. And so perhaps the conversation that we all have with each other about what we want to do and why, that's the real work that DAMP does. And I think that that's similar to all collaborative groups.
All kinds of local and interstate groups have booked the DAMP plinth for their own meetings. It's a space for conversation.
But I feel like the Times have chosen the artwork quite substantially. The world's tried and failed and tried to come together and be a group and talk about climate change and fix that. And then the APT6 is a group as well. It's an experiment to see if you can have a conversation from art in Tehran to contemporary art in China to, you know, craftspeople in the Pacific. And again, I think the plinth is a really optimistic set of questions about that. And we're saying, take this space, like Kylie was saying, it's this platform, speak. And it's not internet, it's not Twitter, it's real, it's people. I think there's something quite positive about it for me, and it will be interesting to see how that is received by people as the months go by.
The opening celebrations of the APT cover several days, all of it leading up to a big party.
We're being serenaded tonight by Pacific Reggae. I don't like reggae. I love it.
Turns out I'm not alone. This is the first opening I've ever been to where the party is actually a real party. The doors are open to the general public and the reggae concert begins. The gallery transformed into a celebration of unity, community, Jah, one love.
It's only natural to be sceptical of a show like the APT that tries to weave together so many contrasting and contradictory elements. We resist globalisation because it feels as though we're giving up our collective and individual identities to a big, homogenised nothing. And yet the APT succeeds because it highlights the very things that we want to hang on to. It demonstrates that the resistance to losing one's identity is something that, ironically perhaps, we can all relate to. We have to embrace reality in order to survive it. We have to step outside the bubble and be here now.
You can join Andrew Frost for an online forum about this program at abc.net.au/arts.